Hi, I'm John Copeland, and welcome back to Fox Valley Kart for another in our series of video seminars for Grand Prix teams. In the past few videos, we've looked at clutches, at the engine and carburetor, and at the chassis and all the different adjustments that are available to you there. Now it's time to get ready to go on the track. Getting around the Grand Prix track at competitive speed isn't intuitive. It's not like hot rodding your car around some country road somewhere. It's a skill you have to learn. But fortunately, we have a championship driver to help you learn the ropes. Corey Patterson has raced successfully on tracks from Newcastle to Daytona. He's won short track races and street races, and most recently was Yamaha track champion at Whiteland Raceway Park. So here to guide you through the process of being competitive at the Grand Prix is Corey Patterson.
Thanks, John. In this video, we're going to spend a lot of time looking at the diagram of the Grand Prix track and at GoPro video of the track. But first, we must understand some of the theory behind driving. You need to start with the understanding that there is no magic. Driving fast is all about the laws of physics. It's all about mass, friction, acceleration, and weight transfer. Learning how to manage these factors is what makes the difference between going fast and just driving around.
First of all, there is no substitute for driving time on the track. You need to be at the track every day of practice, ready to go when they open the track. If you miss a day of practice, or you spend valuable track time fiddling with your stuff in the pits when you should be driving, that's time you can never get back. Don't waste a minute of practice time. This diagram demonstrates how you can apply the grip that your tires provide. The tires on your kart can only develop a finite amount of grip. You can use that grip to accelerate, to brake, or to turn, but the total grip for use in those applications cannot exceed the total amount of grip that you have. For example, if you are braking hard and trying to turn at the same time, you can use some percentage of the grip for braking and the rest for turning, but you could brake harder in a straight line if you weren't using some of that grip for turning. The same with acceleration. Turning hard while you're accelerating can push the tires past the limit of the available traction, and you may lose control.
The goal is to achieve balanced traction, front and rear.
Too much rear traction relative to the front or too much turning load under acceleration makes the front of the kart understeer or push. Too much front traction relative to the rear or braking too hard while the kart is turning makes the kart loose in the back, or oversteer. The difference between the direction the tire is pointed and the direction the kart is moving is called the slip angle. The goal is to have balanced slip angles at both ends of the kart, front and rear.
If there is only one thing to take away from this seminar, it should be this. The kart will not accelerate with the front wheels turn. The combination of relatively large amounts of caster used in karts and the locked rear axle together generate an enormous amount of drag when the front wheels are turned.
If you try pushing the kart across the shop floor and then turn the steering, the kart just wants to stop. The same thing will happen on the track. Your goal should be to get the steering straightened out as early as possible as you go through each turn, without countersteering. Now, let's look at the anatomy of a turn. The apex of the turn is the point at which you are closest to the inside of the track. Late apexing means staying outside a little later before turning into the turn, then turning in tighter to touch the apex at a point beyond the geometric center of the turn. Late apexing lets you straighten the steering earlier and gives you a shallower angle as you exit the turn, and that translates into higher exit speed.
You need to understand that exit speed is everything. In almost every case, you are better to enter a turn more slowly if it gets you to a place on the track where you can get back in the throttle, neutralize the steering, and exit at a higher speed than you can carry down into the next straightaway.
So let's go step by step through late apexing. First, straight line brake, if braking is required before you initiate the turn. Remember the Donahue traction circle. Turning too soon will limit how much you can brake. Spot the point where you want to apex the turn so it will give you the flattest exit angle. Lift off the throttle and turn the steering wheel at the same time to initiate the rotation of the kart. Remember, lifting the throttle transfers weight to the front, makes the steering more positive, and unloads the rear, making it easier to get the cart to rotate. As the front of the cart approaches, pointing at your chosen apex point, get back in the throttle. Neutralize the rear end slide by bringing the steering back to neutral. Finish the turn by accelerating on the straightest possible path.
Sometimes you have to compromise your late apex entry by turning in earlier to protect the inside line in a turn from another driver. And likewise, you can adjust your line to take away another driver's turn by disrupting their late apex line.
There are basically 3 types of turns at the Grand Prix track. Turns at the end of a straightaway, where you want to carry your speed as long as possible without compromising your ability to make the required turn in. Turns at the beginning of a straightaway, where you want to get off the turn with as much velocity as possible to maximize your time at high speed. And finally, turns that lead to other turns, where you want to adjust your approach to put yourself in the best position to enter the next turn.
Always look through the turn. Don't blindly drive into someone else's accident. Develop a wide field of vision and always look ahead for what's coming up. You need to concentrate on what you're doing moment to moment. Focus. One of the curious things about the connection between your brain and your body is that if you focus your vision on where you want the cart to go, your body will take the cart there. As you approach a turn, focus your eyes on where you want to initiate the turn. Once you've committed to the turn-in, look at the point where you want to apex. As you approach the apex, look at the point where you want the turn to finish. You'll be amazed that without really thinking about it, the cart will follow the path you visualized.
You can use the throttle and the brakes to move the weight around in the cart. Lifting off the throttle or hitting the brakes transfers weight to the front tires. Lifting off the throttle as you initiate a turn increases front grip and helps the cart point in better. At the same time, the front weight shift reduces weight on the rears and helps initiate the slip angle you need to get around the turn. Getting back on the gas stabilizes the rear end slip angle and helps the fronts begin to slip more so you can bring the steering back to neutral. Even turns that could be taken flat out are often faster by using a quick lift to move weight forward in the cart so you can get back to a neutral steering position sooner. Threshold braking is the skill of taking the tires to the limit of traction under braking, without locking them up, of course. It requires practice. Keep experimenting with how hard you can brake without locking up. Drive deeper into the turn, brake harder, but for a shorter amount of time. The only place at Purdue that requires significant braking is at turn 2 at the end of the backstretch. Remember the Donahue traction circle. Maximum braking is only possible in a straight line. At turn 2, you want to get from maximum top speed on the straight down to the best cornering speed as quickly as possible. The cart will slow down under braking much faster than you can imagine, so keep pushing it deeper and deeper towards the turn-in point. There are other places at the Grand Prix track that call for braking while you're turning. This is called trail braking. Trail braking puts a little more pressure on the fronts to help keep the cart in line in the turn. Turns 5 and 7 are places where trail braking may help you stay on your desired line.
Finally, and this is really important, never coast. You need to be either on the brakes or on the gas. Never coast. Drive down the straight as deep as you can go, immediately transition to braking if necessary, or just a quick lift if not braking, then back on the gas. Never coast. Well, that about covers the theory portion of driving the Grand Prix track. In the next video, we'll actually head out on the track with in-cart video. We'll drive laps and give you specific direction about picking the proper lines through the turns. In the meantime, don't forget to share these videos with your Grand Prix friends, and feel free to send us your comments and questions. And don't forget to like us on Facebook. See you next time.